I can note the sadness, but I can remember, and I can also mark the joy in the same breath. And that has been very helpful.
You start the book as you see Karen in the mortuary. Can you just describe the feelings, and do those feelings still haunt you, that scene of seeing her and having to identify her?
Well, it's funny. It plays forever, kind of on a little loop. That I guess time and distance has made it a little bit easier to sort of think of it in an objective way. But should I? I mean, I talk about it in the book. Scratch the surface with a kind of a doubt or a new sort of wrinkle of grief, and I'm in it again fully. It was a horrible thing to have to do. It was, but in a strange way, as I've discussed before, it was reassuring in another way because it was so clearly just a body at that point. Karen was not in there, and so there was, I guess, a kind of relief that whatever torture she was put through, it was at least ended now. My first reactions were of the logic of it. Went, okay, yes, that makes sense. Karen is gone. This is what happened. I understand. I have to go do this now and get her body and do all those things. The surrender to grief for me wasn't instant. It took a while. I think for my mom, it was just like somebody stuck a knife in her too.
I know you've spoke a little bit about that man who murdered her. What would you like to say to her murderer right now through this story?
Well, I say it in the book. I mean, suck it up. You did the crime. Just you stay where you are.
What is the status currently of him possibly coming up for parole, or didn't he ask for, you said, being in that?
He keeps asking for parole. He can go under review for parole. He can come. He can do it once a year, I think, at this point. Sometimes he waives it because he thinks he's got another way out. And so far, those doors have remained closed to him. I may have to deal with one day with the idea that he's actually a free man. I don't want to have to deal with it, but the prevailing pattern of leniency in what are basically cruel and unusual crimes are now somehow assuaged by good intentions, I suppose. Distance, people who did not go through the same thing.
Did he ever reach out and try to apologize?
One of the review boards that I went to, he was on video and did usher or make an apology. I'm sorry, I killed her, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, the last one, he said, well, it wasn't my fault. I mean, I think he says what he believes needs to be heard to secure his freedom. Can I forgive him? Yes, because I'm a human being. He's a human being. He's done something that's reprehensible, but in the great scheme of things, if you believe in God, if you believe in Jesus, if you believe in things like that, I forgive him.
You wrote that Karen's murder killed a corner of your heart. And did you escape the feelings of grief and anger through substance abuse at that time?
In God's great wisdom, I didn't really have any money then. So I couldn't afford to escape anywhere. I couldn't. I don't know how anybody could have a drinking or a drug problem without money. So that's my experience was after I actually achieved a certain level of success, I was making enough money to find, new avenues of self-loathing, basically, and some of those were involved with drinking and drugs. And I got through it, and I'm glad I went through it. I mean, it was I'm a tough customer. I had to fight pretty hard to beat myself down, and then I realized I didn't deserve that, so I climbed back out.
You wrote a lot of different things through the book about her, but could you tell me, what was she like as a person?
I've asked some of my friends what they remember, and they tend to remember that sort of smile of hers that, as my one friend said, like she knew things that she wasn't going to tell us. I don't know. She had a kind of a cryptic smile, I guess. She was just joyful. We were joyful together. We enjoyed each other. There were moments when I said, "Oh, Karen, stop it. That's ridiculous," but that was the big brother thing. But we laughed a lot. And it was nice to remember how much laughter and how much fun we had as brother and sister. And I had forgotten a lot of that. And so the writing of it was therapy in a lot of ways for me. I think what it did was it gave me a life to carry that I had forgotten. And so that I now have that side by side with the grief. I can turn from one to the other and remember. I can note the sadness, but I can remember, and I can also mark the joy in the same breath. And that has been very helpful.